Dave Palumbo with another RxMuscle rant. Today's topic, Big Ramy's back. Hey, Big Ramy's always a good topic to talk about, and one of these Instagram, I guess you could say, phenoms up there, train for eating, excuse me, posted this picture and asked the question, is he better now or better last year? This is on the left. You see 6 weeks out from the Mr. Olympia competition. And on the right, this year, 6 weeks out from the Mr. Olympia competition. And the question is, do we see a better Big Ramy? And, you know, when you first look at the picture on the left, okay, you see a much greater amount of detail in Big Ramy's back, especially as you progress down the lower back area. And for those lower lats, you see the separation there, you see the spinal erectors popping out, you see way more detail in his shoulders and his inner traps and the little teres and rhomboids that kind of cover the lats. Obviously, you can see his legs in the picture on the left. You see glutes starting to come in. You see a nice calf definition there. You see a leaner Ramy than what you're seeing on the right. Now, on the right, you know, to be honest, the angle's a little weird on the picture, but you see a lot of size on Ramy. You see a lot of fullness on Ramy. You can't see the legs, but you can see that they're pretty damn full and big in those pants that he's wearing. You don't really see very much lower back detail. His waist looks a little thicker, and I don't think it's because it's muscularly thicker. I think it's because he's just not as lean there. And you have to say to yourself, is this a good sign or a bad sign? And, you know, we all could be armchair quarterbacks, you know, we're not there. Last year, we know Chris Aceto was working with Ramy, and Chris is a big conditioning guy. And obviously at the Mr. Olympia and the post-Olympia European Tour, Ramy was in his best shape of his life. The question now remains, now that Ramy's back, you know, training with the Camel Crew in Beta Badai, is this a dangerous sign that Ramy is not looking that detailed at 6 weeks out? We know that these guys in Kuwait come in very big. The size is there. Obviously, we see, you know, huge Ruli Winkler, huge Nathan Diasha. Are we going to see a huge Ramy on stage like we've seen in years past, or are we going to see a conditioned Ramy, which seemed to be a much better Ramy in terms of the judges' rankings, because last year, you know, was his best placing. So it's hard to say. It's hard to say. I think that Ramy, especially he's sitting in front of that mirror that has a lot of, he's sitting in front of that window he's posing where that light looks really good. So it actually probably shows way more definition than we're seeing in the little house shot on the left. So I have to imagine that Ramy's even less lean than the picture may indicate, which is, to me, troubling, because Ramy's one of these guys who has no problem putting muscle on, but he obviously has a little bit of trouble getting leaned out. Looking at pictures like we're seeing here from the front is not really a good indication, because Ramy is always lean from the front. It's when he turns around from the back, are we going to see detail in the middle back? Are we going to see Christmas tree in that lower back? Are we going to see, you know, striations in his deep striations in his glutes and hamstrings? Are we going to see quad striations, which is the first time we ever saw them from him really in a respectable amount was last year. So I'm a little concerned at this point that maybe he's too heavy. I know that everyone wants to see Ramy at 320 on stage, but I don't think that he's a legitimate 320-pound in-shape bodybuilder. And I think that's important to remember. Conditioning wins shows. We've said it time and time again, and, you know, 322 pounds, as Bader's indicating in this picture, at 6 weeks out is probably not a good idea for Ramy to be in. Because we're seeing abs and arms and delts and pecs. We're not seeing legs here, and we're not seeing glutes and hamstrings. And we know that the details are what win the show. Look, Phil Heath is Mr. Olympia for a reason, because he's got the comic book cartoonish muscle, but he also has the freaky, nasty, dry conditioning. And that's really what's helped him beat Kai Green those couple years that they were going neck and neck. And it's what sealed the deal, without a question of a doubt, last year. So if Ramy's coming into this Olympia, and I know he's probably watching, he watches all our programming, you know, wanting to win, which I know he wants to, and I think he has the tool set to win, he's got to think conditioning. He's never going to be small on stage. There's no way he's coming in small. He's got the most muscle of anyone up there. You got to be conditioned, Ramy. If you want to crack that top 3 this year, okay, and challenge for the title, you got to bring conditioning. And anyone out there who's helping Ramy has got to understand that. At 6 weeks out, Ramy's got to be leaner, I believe. And I think it's a big mistake to wait till the last minute and then try to crash diet him in the last 2 weeks. So, I mean, you see this picture of Phil Heath. That's grainy, nasty, dense, mature muscle. It's going to take a lot to knock him off. Does Ramy have the tools? Yes. Will he bring the goods the day of the show? I'm not so certain anymore. But let's see what happens. We call it another Ramy experiment. It seems like every year is a Ramy experiment. I don't know why we can't just get him on a game plan and stick with it. I thought what he did last year worked real well. But look, I respect what's going on out there in Kuwait. I know Beta Badai is putting his all into it. He's a passionate guy about bodybuilding. Everyone wants to see Ramy bring the best. Guys, just don't make the mistake of trying to bring him in too big. Ramy will look great at 295 or 290 on stage. Trust me, he will still be the biggest guy on stage. All right, I'm Dave Palumbo with another opinion that doesn't really matter for much of anything, but I'm going to tell you it because it's rant time here at RxMuscle.com.